Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that happens automatically, luckily.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, we'll get started in just a moment here. Just want to make sure people have a chance to get their audio dialed in before we actually get going. Critical. All right, 80 people should be good. And I'll make sure that I type this in for people that come in a little bit later, but I wanted to start out and welcome everyone to today's webinar. Before I hand it off to our panelists today, I did want to cover a few technical logistics. I'm sure by this point, many of you are familiar, but we use Zoom Webinar for these platforms. And that means that your cameras and microphones are disabled by default. Today is a little special since it's kind of a niche topic with a bunch of like-minded individuals. We do want to have some degree of open discussion. So we're going to make heavy use, or hopefully make heavy use anyway, of the hand raise function. So if you use that hand raise function, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and then announce that you can speak during those open forum or open discussion periods. And we would love it if you did it that way. But if for whatever reason you can't speak, you can use the chat feature. Just make sure that you put all panelists and attendees in the little drop down there so that everyone can see your message. Otherwise, it will only be seen by us in the panel. If you have any technical problems, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to assist as quickly as possible. So without further ado, I want to hand it off to today's panelists. We have Ed Siffring and Bill Stanfill, who've generously volunteered their experts and time and to kind of lead this discussion. And we've got an hour budgeted, and hopefully we have a bunch of very helpful and informative tips and best practices shared. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to you, Bill.
Hey, you want to, good. Well, welcome everybody. Glad here. I see Liesel's on the call and not too sure about how she claimed we were going to change everybody's lives, but we'll certainly head in that direction. So let me hang up my phone there. So one of the first things I say, I am, let you know, I am from Cotty College. We are probably the epitome of a small college. We have a little over 300 students, and we have 300 students. And so we're really small. We can't house more than about 450. So we're always going to be small, I think. So, and Ed's from up at Concordia College. You want to say a little bit about yourself, Ed?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, it's good to see a lot of names. I'm scrolling through the panel or the attendees, and it's good to see a bunch of names I recognize. I'm Ed Siffring. I'm registrar at Concordia University in Nebraska, the one of the Concordias. Our little place here, we're not that far from Bill and Cotty, so right here in the middle of the country. Concordia is in a town of about 6,500, 7,000 people, and frankly, that's too big for me. So I live out in the boonies. I live in the suburbs of a town of about 170. But anyway, it's good to have you here. We're Concordia is about 1,200 people walking around the campus. We do significant amount of dual credit. Probably have 1,200 students this year in our dual credit programs across the country, and a few hundred online grad students. So yeah, we're hoping today's at least worth your time. I think probably many of you, like us, are anxious to talk to people. So I'm hoping maybe we get some chat going on. As Mike said, if you raise your hand, then he'll recognize you with giving you the microphone. You can talk if you'd like. Our planned schedule today would be to have the two wild men, Bill and Ed, kind of loosen you up, kind of the warm-up act, and then maybe in 15, 20 minutes, something like that, you can probably see Julia Fanaki from AACRAO on the screen. And Julia is going to talk to us about the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations that come out of the EU. And so we'll hopefully answer some questions you might have about that, whether you need to worry about them, or if you do, what do you do about them? And in the meantime, Bill and I have a couple things that we thought we might use to drives some questions and discussion. And so I guess we can scooch into that one. First thing we thought would be what's been on our minds for the last year and a half. Probably changed many of your practices. What sorts of things did you do? What sorts of things will you keep? What sort of things will you get rid of? Did your commencement change? Yeah, right. Of course. So I guess, yeah, you don't want to listen to me talk all day, or probably want to share Bill, but
Okay, well, yeah, that one was probably on top of my list of things. So what I've been wanting to, been here in this job a little over 3 years now, and I've been wanting to get moving toward paperless, and slowly but surely getting some form flow and stuff, instead of carrying paper around. And I guess one of the good things that happened for the COVID pandemic for us was that really accelerated the process. And that's something that we are, I've been wanting to do. And so it really was a catalyst to make us think about the flow of approval processes. And it was really a good exercise. And that is something that we're really going to keep. In fact, we even are making more use of some functionality. We're a Zanzibar school, more functionality of our SIS than we probably did before. So for us, that was a good thing. And I don't know what anybody else has some thoughts on what it did for their campus.
yeah, we branched into a whole bunch of Adobe Forms. So does everybody know that you can turn your chat on if you haven't already? Down at the bottom screen, if you click if you scroll your mouse down there, the menu pops up. You can highlight the chat and you get a little window there.
Correct. And I was going to say, some people are still, make sure that you do put all panelists and attendees if you want everyone to see your message. I'm trying to keep on top of repost things that are just sent to us.
Okay, thanks.
Of course, the other alternative is to use that hand raise, and I'll go in and unmute you.
Yeah, we'd sure appreciate someone else talking. Yeah, so when you do make your message, make sure you change the drop down to everybody.
Yeah.
All right, Lizel, you can speak if you'd like.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I'd just like to thank Ed and Bill for joining us and being willing to put yourselves out there and talk today. I agree that the forms piece of things at Augie was a huge win for us. We had been sort of gradually trying to get things up and convince faculty to move things online. And so moving that to the front of the line and getting those things done was huge. The other thing that we had encountered on campus, I chair our waivers committee on campus, but I'm a non-voting member of that committee. But often we had to reschedule meetings because there were childcare issues with faculty members, or potentially weather issues, or a lab ran late, or whatever reasons. And I just found that having our meetings we use Google Meet on campus, that has been a great benefit. And I think we're actually going to continue our meetings that way. It also forced our faculty to actually read the materials ahead of time, because we didn't spend the first 10 minutes of each meeting sort of talking about the different cases that we were considering. So that was another benefit. I think faculty becoming much more comfortable with the Google folders and the shared folders was also a huge benefit for us. So those are big wins on our campus.
Okay. Thank you. I noticed from Tina asked me what software, and maybe that came before I said that, but we actually were looking at like DocuNav. I think that's who it is. They're a value-added reseller for Laserfish, but anyway, but has lots of form flow documents and electronic signatures. But right now, at least for the next year or two, foreseeable future, we're going to just make use of the workflow and forms that come with like our SIS Zanzibar. So answer that question. But you're right, online forums, we're never going back either. Somebody else I noticed mentioned that about be able to do hybrid. Now that all of our faculty are well versed in how to shift and pretty rapidly to shift into online and back and forth. I think that I'm guessing we're going to see more hybrid. So everybody can have Friday afternoon off. That seems to be the trend. But if we can have more of that. But with you, somebody said we learned that remote students do not like remote. They didn't do well. We had about the double of our probation rate. And so we decided this fall that no online classes. And there's a few students that kind of asked for it. And we said, nope, we're just going to go back to in-house as long as we can. So any other, let's see, let me scroll down. Anybody else got on the chat here?
Tons of good chat. One that just came to us, but might be helpful for everybody is, what is everyone using for their online forms? Are you using Google or a fillable PDF or some specialized software?
Yeah, Ed, you all use anything or anybody else? Because like I say, we're just taking advantage of our SIS functionality.
Yeah, we have, we're just using Adobe. I see a couple of comments in here, unless I might shift gears too fast here, but I've seen some employee relations sorts of questions. Flex schedules for employees, and one of them said having trouble getting everybody to come back to office after being at home. Now here at Concordia, we actually didn't even close the office. The campus left, the students left, but we stayed in the office the whole time. So I haven't had that problem. I had troubles getting my folks to go home.
Well, and in our office, there's me and my assistant. We're just two. We do it all. So yeah, we were right here the whole time.
Yeah.
So
So somebody, Lori asked, what are you doing to bring folks that, or asked, she's having troubles about getting folks back. What are people doing to get folks motivated to come back? I know my son in Denver was home for a month or a year and a half, and he's growly about having to go back to the office. What sort of things are you having to do to get people come back? Anyone? Holy smokes. Scrolling here.
Yeah, the chat's going quick. Jeanette Rourke, you can unmute yourself if you'd like to speak.
they say,
Jeanette's, you're still muted, Jeanette, looks like.
yep, I kind of sounds like nobody went back to paper.
That's what I'm seeing here, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, while we wait for Jeanette to unmute on her end, I'll make sure that I save this chat log here, because
Good.
lots of already good resources on here, and it's scrolling by faster than I can read.
Yeah, so
in a while.
Matt, people are saying, there we go, Jeanette,
Oh.
great.
I'm
Hey
sorry,
there.
I don't have a question. Don't wait on me. I don't have a question.
Oh, okay.
I know there's one I've never heard of before, Power Automate / Microsoft Forms, probably because I haven't done a lot of research, but might look in that. Charles Eaton, is that something that you're looking at, or you've actually signed on to and just haven't gotten it up and working yet?
Hi there, it's Charlie Eaton at Franklin Pierce University. Actually, we had a lot of trouble with our Genzabo workflows and options. So we went to Adobe PDFs and we heard a lot of good things about Microsoft Forms and the Power Automation features that come with it. So it's just a matter of doing our research and see what we can do for the next year.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, so far our forms are working. Let's say we're a pretty small campus, so we haven't had to get too sophisticated with that. And mainly our main person who put them all together and was doing all the kind of workflow work behind the scenes just went off to work for Genzabar. So we may have to do something too. So anyway, so yeah, thanks. Okay, anybody else? So let's see, commencement. Yeah, we had this past spring, we actually had an in-house. We split it. We have an associate degrees and bachelor's, of course, we're small. So we had it, we split it up, one session for associates, one for bachelors. In our gym, we spread chairs out for everybody, including guests. And we let guests meet, up to 3 per graduate, and they could sit in their little clump of 3, but then they were separated from everybody else. Everybody had masks. I don't think we will go back to purely online like we did the spring before. But I don't know if anybody found anything. We did certainly, we've always streamed ours, well, at least in the last few years, streamed them, the graduation, and we probably refined that process. I see lots of people said they socially distant. Well, there's a good thing to find out. Vaccines, or you can't come back to campus. We have not implemented that, but it's highly recommended. I guess, we'll see what happens in another month. Several people mandating vaccines. Okay. Yeah.
I see a note that kind of interests me from Jason at Reed College about, look, the way I interpret that is bringing in your incoming freshmen, first year students in summer instead of waiting for fall. Is that right, Jason? And you sound like that's pretty successful. And I guess what do you think made that successful?
And hopefully he's typing.
Yeah. I have unmuted you, Jason, if you want to speak. Sorry to call on you.
I think you unmuted the wrong Jason.
Oh,
Wrong Jason. Sorry about that, Jason. Let me try to find the right Jason. Is that Jason Marr, probably?
Now I can't find it again.
How's that work? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
There.
that works. Perfect.
This is the Reed guy.
Yeah. So,
Thanks.
no, this is just first year students registering remotely for the fall semester.
Oh, got it. Okay.
They're not actually, normally Reed would get their first year students registered during orientation.
Okay.
Just prior to the start of the term. So this is a new thing for Reed to get first years registered during the middle of the summer. There's some thought that perhaps it might help with MELT a little bit. But we did it as an emergency measure back in summer 20. And the thought was, wow, maybe this is really something we want to do going forward. So we kind of piloted a more sustainable model this summer, and so far so good.
yeah, I can recommend that. We've backed ours all the way up to even, I guess, in June for our first registrations. We're going to have all of ours registered online, except for right now of the left deposit, all but 14 out of some 150 or 60 new freshmen. So we have found that it helps them out. So recommend that from our point of view anyway. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're at registrars in April.
say again.
We had registrar, and we start registering in April for our incoming class.
Well, we don't do our new ones till June, but we certainly have all of our other students are
Right.
current students are registered by the first week in May. So okay. We might want to talk about anybody have some significant wins or things they found out that was an oops. And if we'll jump to that, and then we'll let Julia take the stage here.
Oh gosh, it's already 20 after.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to get to the bottom of the chat here, and
So Michelle asked the questions. When do you register their incoming students? We heard a few different answers here. Again, we start ours actually while the current students are being registered, which there's not a lot of overlap between the classes current students need. It also helps us figure out what sections we're going to need next fall. If we end up with, needing more English classes or more history classes, we can get that done. And it's really hard getting extra classes built during the summer when the faculty's off doing whatever faculty do during the summer.
Yeah,
So it's-
that's certainly a benefit. We split ours up into, again, we're pretty small numbers, but we have 4 sessions starting in June, a week long each session. And of course, we don't have a separate, our academic advisors are our faculty. We don't have a separate staff for that. So we have some volunteer faculty that volunteer, and they're kind of the registration advisor for those 4 sessions across June and July. And like I say, that pretty much gets them all in. And good point, Ed, it allows you to add some sections, take some sections away, and you got a better schedule when school starts.
Yeah, and Lori Wall, you can unmute yourself if you want to speak. I saw your hand was raised. Oh, there it goes. I guess she's done.
Oh, how do we do the transfer credits? I can answer that. I'm also, like I say, just me. So I also, as unofficial, especially official, but even as unofficial transcripts come in for transfer students, I work up a spreadsheet, kind of like a form we have, but just a spreadsheet with how those, what will transfer, what they'll count for, what won't transfer. And I make that sheet available to that registration advisor. And so, and it's pretty easy to do because I'm not doing them all at once. Now, we don't actually enter official transfer courses into our system until they actually sit in class, which is kind of a pain in the butt first few weeks. But for the registration though, they have, they've got at least when an unofficial, here's how it's going to do it to help them put their schedule together. That answer the question there, whoever that was. Okay.
And then I don't know if you guys noticed the question in Reginald.
Which one?
How Reginald Garcon asked how schools are tracking vaccinations.
Actually, I don't know the answer to that question for us. That's our student life health folks. So I'd like to say they're tracking it, but I really don't know.
Yeah, we're doing basically the way Catherine says. I don't know if we have a form or not, but it's basically self-reported. Our student life folks are tracking that.
Yeah. Okay,
So Barbara says we're having, is that a required? It says having students submit electronic form, they scan other vaccinations.
oh,
Is that a required submission, or is that not requiring it? Okay, thank you.
okay. All right. I'll tell you what, say, Ed, why don't we break off, let Julia take the stage here, and she wants to, and I actually wanted this topic because we have quite a few international students percentage wise. And, but then once we went on the pandemic, our 3 students from France started working remotely from France. And I thought, geez, I wonder what it is. I don't know about the GDPR that I probably should know. How's it different from FERPA, et cetera? So what do you think, Ed? Let Julia take over.
Yeah, I think it's time. I'm ready to turn my brain off for a second.
Okay.
No offense, Julia.
I'll try and turn mine on. How about that? Okay, Mike, we can go to the next slide. So in asking me to talk about GDPR, it's been a while since it was implemented. We just passed the 3-year mark in May. It was implemented in May of 2018. And GDPR is a general data protection regulation. And really, it's a regulation that started out because it wants to unify data protection laws in the EU. As you probably know, the EU is made up of member states, and there are a lot of them. So like the United States, it was an effort to say, we're going to consolidate these and try and have expanded reach and improve the protection to keep pace with what's going on in technology, which of course has just gone like gangbusters, and there was a need to start to think about data and privacy and protecting people. So really what the GDPR is it's an effort to ensure good data hygiene. And if you think about where we are in the world today, that need to protect data has growing every day. We're seeing more and more of this, and that the soaring amount of personal data that is out there. You know this, I know this, I see this all the time in my work and in my phone, and when I'm not working, in how much everybody wants your data. So that value on that data, that value of having that information is a great value to us. It's a great help to us. And you're talking about online forums and how great that is, but there's also a threat there, correct? The more your data gets out, the more you're getting pursued by things that maybe are nefarious or maybe are just a nuisance. So that's another part of it. So there was this desire to bring data protection legislation in line with what is our now internet-based world. We can go to the next slide. This next slide is meaty, and it's meant as a reference for at your desk. These are some of the things that GDPR is talking about, addresses, okay? And if you go in and you put EU GDPR into your browser, you will come up with a great document that is the GDPR, and it's got hyperlinks into the articles to how they relate to different things. And so what I'm giving you here are some of the big principles, some of the big things that have people nervous about GDPR, and then the articles that refer to those items. So for instance, transparency. Individuals should be provided with notice on what personal data is being processed and the purposes for that processing. Article 12 deals with that in this document, and it also gives you recitals, things that relate to that particular article. None of this should be too scary because once again, this is about good data hygiene. It's about having the information that we have, knowing what we have, who has it, why we have it, what the purpose is of that data, and then what to do with it. So let's go on. This is just, like I said, this is meaty, but it's just more of a desk reference for you. Let's go to the next slide, Michael. So some of the principles that are involved in GDPR, and tell me if you think these make sense or not, if this seems reasonable. The first is lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. In other words, personal data has to be processed in a lawful manner. It has to be done fairly and in a way that's clear to those having their data being used. So for instance, today, now, when you go on, you probably get many times a day, oh, this website uses cookies. Are you okay with that? And this opting in to have your data shared. Those are the questions they're asking you because it's now up to you. That the idea is that it should be up to you whether or not your data is going to be shared. Next is purpose limitation. In other words, your data, it should be collected for a specified, explicit, and legitimate purpose and not processed in other ways, right? In things that you weren't interested in or you didn't have any idea about it being used for, okay? That's what GDPR is about. And also that data minimization. Personal data must be adequate, relevant, and limited to what's necessary in relation to the purpose for which they are processed. Honestly, the way I think about it is, in some ways, we had been inclined, especially to be data hoarders. We're going to get as much data as we can. We don't know how we might use it. We don't know when we might use it, but it might be great to have that data stored down in our storage room, like we do with our paper towels that we buy, because someday we might need it. Versus, I need this particular item for a particular reason. I'm going to be sort of that tidying, that Marie Kondo approach to data. I need it for this. I'm going to use it and enjoy it while I need it and implement it for what the needs are. And when I'm done, I'll thank it and done with it. And now it's gone. We're going to get rid of it. Okay. So think of it as we want to be good Marie Kondos. We want to be good at the data that we keep and keeping it tidy and knowing what we're using it for. Okay, so last slide. And these are just links. So that GDPR resource that I mentioned, that's that middle link, the General Data Protection Regulation. It's a lot of fun to go through that. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a really good resource. Also, if you look at AACRAO's advocacy and compliance on GDPR, we have lots and lots of information there. And also through the advocacy forum, if you go in and look at issues of state privacy legislation, you can see what's going on in the United States as far as privacy goes. It's absolutely not a coincidence that once GDPR came out, we started talking about these things, and the California Consumer Protection Act came about. These are going to keep happening. There are other countries that have data regulations out there as well. So you might want to get into knowing about them. Now, let's take this full circle. So I just told you all about GDPR. We also have FERPA, right? It's a great sort of blanket that we have in education. And in many, many ways, FERPA serves these same purposes. There are some gaps and some overlap, right? And so that's important to know. But if you all are probably the front and center first line when it comes to FERPA. So you know what FERPA is. And so really you understand these principles of we're trying to keep this data secure, right? So you're much further ahead than you actually think you are. And FERPA is really a great starting point. And in all these, you should say, all these regulations that come out, do you have an exemption due to FERPA, right? Does having FERPA give you that exemption? And then if not, what doesn't it cover? Where are the gaps? And you'd be surprised at how much really is covered by FERPA. And we actually have a one-page paper, I believe, that's out in that state privacy legislation document that AACRAO did together with the National Student Clearinghouse that addresses specifically that question. And we are lucky and blessed to have the great Leroy Rooker on staff as a senior fellow, and he, of course, is the FERPA guru, so he can answer all questions related to FERPA. I'm going to stop there because I think that was a lot of information. Hopefully not too overwhelming, but please know you have my contact information. You are welcome to, Mike, you can put it in the chat even. If you have any questions on any of this, I am happy to help or to put you into contact with somebody that can help. Ed, Bill, was that too fast, too much?
Nope. That's me. I don't know if anybody's got any, I haven't seen any.
Seen any questions?
Of course, they were listening about it. If anybody want to raise their hand and have a question. Anybody there, Mike? No? Well, go ahead.
Not see one.
Okay.
Now back to your regular scheduled topics.
Well, that was regular scheduled. So I want to back up to one that I see on the chat that has to do with all of us going to paper, trying to get paperless. The question is, where to go? Here it is. If all forms, registry withdrawals that are scanned in our system, or if they're just generated digitally to start with, I would add, do we need to keep the paper form if we have it on file for how long? My intention is no. In fact, I would say that our digital forms are actually more secure than our paper ones in the greater scheme of things. I mean, one good tornado here in central, United States, and whereas they might be gone, and for a long time, ever since we went to we use Clearinghouse for our transcripts, electronic transcripts, but even with our thing, we don't print out transcripts except on demand out of our SIS. So they're really, transcripts technically are stored, we don't store the paper. So my plan is to pretty much get rid of paper on our side of the house. If enrollment management wants to keep theirs, let them have it, but I'm trying to get it down, and I can keep them forever digitally without sucking up, closet and file cabinet space. But anybody else got any thoughts on that? Glad to hear them. That's
always been my intent. There the question of forever is another thing. You still should probably implement a retention policy.
Yeah, sure.
So you can get rid of withdrawal forms and stuff after a couple years or whatever the number is. So that's maybe a little bit, it's just a different way of purging, but should still do that. So,
yeah,
I had that same question. So thanks for asking that, Lori.
Talk about scanning. We have gone back. I had a couple of work studies starting, I guess, a year and a half ago, scanning all of our old, we didn't get on digital till 89, and we have transcripts dating back to 1884. No, we found an 1886 one. It was the earliest one we found so far. And these students that they've been scheduled, we got up to some 3,000 plus and still counting. So yes, we'll keep those for historical purposes, but now they're in a better shape because some of the old ones are really falling apart. So yeah, it's a good thing.
I did note a GDPR question, Julia. Can't speak with Jeannie or Jeanette, or somebody says, Jeannie Fox says, can you explain the right to be forgotten part of
Right.
GDPR?
Right, and I did to some extent
I see.
send
Okay.
an answer to that. So what it says actually on that slide that we had pulled up is that the right to be forgotten has conditions. Okay, so it doesn't mean the right to erasure. It simply means I don't want you having my data anymore and controlling it. But if you have data that's there for a certain reason, the student took a course, the student failed the course, the student was enrolled in that semester, paid for that semester, then you have a reason to have that data. And they can't just simply say, I want to be forgotten because I didn't do well in that course. There are, and I would really encourage you to go to Article 17 into the EU GDPR, and I will actually put Article 17 into the chat in just a moment. But there are conditions on that right to be forgotten. Over and over again, that is the biggest concern that I have heard from administrators in higher ed, is that right to be forgotten. But keep in mind, there are conditions on that. And a student who's enrolled in a course and took courses, has registered and signed up with you, they can't simply say, I want to be forgotten because I don't want that grade to show. Doesn't happen.
Good. Yeah, thanks. That certainly begs the question. In fact, we have students, not even GDPR, but they come in here and want us to, hey, get rid of that for me. And
yeah, right.
Right.
So,
right. Okay, so I will put the text of that into the chat as well.
yeah, thanks, Julia. Okay, we ready to move on to our kind of some
I'm looking through
topics here.
Man, their comments are coming like crazy. A lot of folks are saying what their software is. We can't get rid of paper for prior students who are not able to access their portal.
Let's see.
Liza, you're good to speak. Your mic, you can unmute or mute yourself, Liza, at your discretion.
Yeah, it was more of a comment regarding what Julia just shared and the question about right to be forgotten. We discovered from one of our international recruiters that there are agencies out there that are, I guess I will use the word, preying on international students and having them pay to have these companies contact institutions on their behalf. So it's somewhat of a scam in some ways. So that's why many of us are receiving these emails, on the behalf of such and such a student, they're asking that you do this, or they're providing them with lists of institutions and stock language to send at a cost to the student. So what we are doing is being very careful to caution, our prospective students. That's mostly who we're hearing from, is students who were prospects and then didn't matriculate at the college. So I'm just putting that out there that there's some of that going on as well.
Well, unfortunate.
Always opportunists out there to take advantage of the situation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Liesl, is that you, or you talk about just finished scanning them all and the tornado just missed you?
That was Leslie.
Oh, Leslie, I can only see part of it. I need to spread mine out a little
Stretch it
bit.
out a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah, wow.
Oh, yeah. Leslie Dunning. Yeah. So
So,
rightfully so.
yeah, it's a worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say next topic up, if there's something still on an older one, Mike.
Just as a helpful tip, I guess, is that you can open the chat in a new window rather than having it be kind of like inlaid in a single window. And then once it's a new window, you can resize it. So since there are so many comments, I might recommend doing that just because you can click a corner and make it work.
Yep. I just thanks. And for Leslie's comment, does colleague have a filing system? You'll certainly have to not ask me. Genzabar does have a document manager. And in fact, that's become handy because we started using it. So instead of going to some folder out on some cloud drive and searching through for each student, all the documents that belong to that student are tucked in with their record in Genzabar. So that has become really handy for us. So let's say lots of benefits that that the pandemic got us to jump on. Okay, so moving right along, since we got
A lot of folks using student workers for those jobs.
oh, you betcha.
Great task, great thing for them. Yeah.
It's not free labor, but it's cheap.
It's cheap.
So
Yeah.
Did you guys notice the question from Melody? And again, this is, I don't know if it's related to reporting, but how do you handle audits if there are no paper files?
Oh, yeah.
We just, well, I've done it at a different school, and when they came, they got a list of students or whatever the topic was they were looking at the time, gave us a list, and at that point we printed them out for them because they wanted to see paper, but we certainly didn't have everything. But yeah, we just produced them on the spot, if you will.
And you could always produce them into a PDF and give them a folder with the PDFs of the right people too, I suppose, too, rather than giving them paper.
Yeah, so.
Great.
Yeah, again, you know, the idea is that we have to keep records. Doesn't necessarily say what format we have to keep the records.
That's right.
And if we can do it effectively with electronic, then we're doing our job. So.
Okay, reporting. I don't know that I have too much to say about it. I have an issue or a challenge. Don't have issues, have challenge with our Genzabar system on clearinghouse producing enrollment reports, but that's because whenever I graduate an associate and they're sticking around for their bachelor's, but I graduate them after 2 years, my Genzabar software wants to, say they've withdrawn from the school because they graduated when in fact they haven't. So I got to do some, fortunately, we don't have very many students, so I have to manually go in and fix those, but that's really a Genzabar specific thing, I suspect. Anybody, now that we've kind of moved off of pandemic cause thing, anybody have any? Ed, maybe you got anything?
I think some of these were just topics I thought of in case we needed some filler time. And I guess we've got, if we need 15 minutes, we have it. Some of the things that, I've been doing this for just over 20 years now. And I guess I'm kind of curious, how I've developed my position here at Concordia as the university registrar has been, I think, pretty successful. I've been able to get, into the faculty meetings. Prior to me being here, we didn't have representation at faculty, at the committees and such. And I believe that registrar has a lot to say to what the university does, and how we produce stuff. We can't direct policy, but I sure influence it as best I can. I guess I'm kind of curious to see what other folks think. If they're having, I know that I read messages from folks who have troubles with their faculty and not getting access to their committees and such. I'm not sure if that's really if that's something we can actually talk about or not, but it's always on my mind.
Well, maybe,
Here's a good question, actually. That's actually a real question from Jay. On the Q&A, any schools claiming a waiver with the VA because of the Atkinson and Rowe legislation due next week? We want to talk about that.
and that's probably good because this lately come up. I'm the SCO, like I say, it's one man shop mostly, but I'm the SCO, and actually we're not planning on a waiver because we can generate, and I'm not too sure what do. We work with our financial aid person as far as the shopping and that kind of stuff, but we're not planning on a waiver. But what are I would be interesting to know what particular part of the Isaacson and Rowe, well, you're right, Charlie, we could have a whole webinar on Isaacson and Rowe.
Probably have been some.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. But what particular item or items that are being required or causing you to need a waiver for more time? I'd be interested in knowing that from people.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle, for that. You're actually a voting member on your committees. That's great.
Oh, you get to be a voting member. I'm a non-voting member on our curriculum committee and stuff, but I don't know, funny, they don't let me vote. Doesn't mean I don't speak my piece.
Tracy's also non-voting. Yeah, exactly. If we offer advice and
Yes.
Oof.
Oh,
Oof.
you ought to fix that, Marissa.
Yeah. So the way I fixed it was I actually volunteered to be secretary.
Oh,
And then after a couple of years, they figured out, oh, you can't be secretary. That's supposed to be a faculty job, but you can stay. So yeah, like Sarah says, it's important. So try to get yourself an ally up top, provost, VPAA, something like that, to help push that. Work on the chair if you have a faculty president or chairman of the committees. See if you can work on them. That's, I guess, whatever advice I have.
Well, one reason that I'm on, even if it's non-voting member, but kind of a standing adjunct member, is I also am in charge of the catalog. So, like I say, I get to do it all, but that keeps me, I can keep the catalog better up to date by new policies and stuff by sitting in the meeting instead of waiting for minutes and trust that somebody didn't leave something out. So it gives me a first-hand book, and then I just update my next year's draft as I go, so that by the time I'm next spring, it's pretty much done with at least the academic changes. So that would be my reason for being on it. I was sure hoping somebody would mention what the main roadblocks in implementing the new VA stuff is that are generating a waiver from your school. I don't know, Lisa, you were pushing this. Maybe we need to have us a registrar, or I don't know how many registrars don't have the SCO in their office, but I suspect most of us do, unless you're really big. But most of us small ones, I would suspect we do. I think that would be an interesting follow-on meeting.
Actually discussion on that on the small college listserv last week. That a lot of folks have moved the SCO to financial aid.
Oh, have they?
And are very happy for it.
I wonder if I can sell that. I should try it.
Good luck.
Of course, she's a one-man shop just like I am. She's probably not going to want it. So, okay. What else? What's on your, well, we talked about faculty, role of the registrar, amending policy. That's probably all with whether we get to be a voting member, I have the fortunate, I'm in the fortunate position that my boss, the vice president for academic affairs or provost at other universities, really will stand up for policy and everything, and it makes my job so easy. And I actually have been in another school where it wasn't that easy, so I guess maybe I'm fortunate in that. Okay, VA is in financial aid for you. Oh, Harvard also saying, oh, you're big enough, Laurie. Laurie, you're big enough to have a separate veterans office. Well, lucky you. Let's see here. So it's financial aid. Good. I'm going to document all this and take it across the street and see if I can sell it. So
This is a change of course here. Ashley Dickman asks, does anyone include transfer credit into a student's GPA? Rough guidance based on what I've read over on Small College Listserv over the years is it's about half and half, I guess.
I've actually seen some transcripts where from other schools where they have two sections. They will show it included and not included.
Really?
A GPA with and GPA without. But yeah, I'm with you. I've seen about half and half.
Affects graduation honors. How does it do that, Marissa? That's interesting. Do not include GPA. We have a limit to how many hours you have to have earned here before you're eligible for graduation honors. Is that what you're talking?
Yeah. Okay, 2 seconds. Yep. So Julie, there they have two sections in theirs.
No, Jay really doesn't really care apparently.
Got it, Jay. That's great.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there you go, Marissa. Yeah.
Okay, so how it affects the graduation. Well, hello first. I'm from University of Dallas in Irving, Texas. So how it affects our graduation GPA is, so we accept your transfer credit with permission, of course. When it gets to graduation honors time, any course that has been used towards the completion of the degree, whatever that grade is, it is calculated in the GPA that you've earned here, and it will determine where you rank. So it cannot move you up. So if you're at a 3.4 and our cum laude starts at a 3.4, if you're there, it can't move you up, but it can kick you out of honors recognition.
Really?
So if you earned C's in those courses that you use towards the degree, then that could move you out of recognition for honors because the university GPA is regarded higher than anything else that you take elsewhere.
Wow, it sounds like a little extra work, Marissa.
It is. This was a new way to do things for me.
Yeah.
Right. Let me bounce back. I'll see an NSC question from Liesel again. We were very fortunate that all of our CIPs did not change going from 2010 to 2020. So thankfully we had no issues. But there's a question if anybody else had some issues.
In case you know, there's a tool on the NCES CIP website that tells you which of yours are in the change.
Yep.
So
use of that was handy.
You can look that up and see if any of you the CIPs that you've recorded are included in the change, and if not, you kind of just change the numbers and go, or change the year on your records if that's what you have.
Must be a good session. I'm into my second Pepsi here. That's good.
Yeah. Jay Flynn, I didn't notice your hand originally, so we may have moved beyond the comment you wanted to make, but you can speak if you'd like to.
Oh, thanks very much, Mike. I think we probably have moved past it, but I would just be all in favor of those folks who are interested in what to do about the Isaacson and Rowe waiver maybe can get back together on SCRL listserv or some other forum. We've been delving into it quite a bit here, trying to make sure we get our response right. And one of the things we noticed is that one of the folks here called it a wolf in sheep's clothing, was that requirement to have a single point of contact for persons receiving veterans benefits in terms of not just the VA benefits, but academic counseling, financial aid counseling, personal resources, all that kind of stuff. And it reminded me at my previous institution when we were audited by the VA, the person there said it was a requirement. I don't know that she made it up or not, or if it was a real requirement, that a person who did VA benefits could not do any other task other than VA benefits. And I'm sure most schools here, many people wear many different hats. And so anyway, that's just one of the things. And I'll mute myself now and take it offline.
Oh, Jay, say that last thing again that they told you.
That a person, the SCO, could not have any other responsibilities outside of being an SCO.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, me too. We had a person who was the academic room scheduler as well as the SCO, and we ended up having to split those in two. And praise the Lord, that position moved over to financial aid, and that was fabulous. However, we're such a small shop here, I don't see how we could ever make something like that fly.
Well, we sure couldn't for sure. Yeah,
No.
I would question that.
I wonder if that's maybe a local employee's interpretation, somebody who's doing that local VA audit instead of
Well,
I don't know.
Truth be told, I'm pretty convinced it is, because the person said when we questioned that and a number of other things, the reply was, well, that Congress really didn't know what they were doing when they created the legislation. And so we just kind of take that and move on to the next thing that we had to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay, getting closer. I want to address one from, I guess, from Gail. Best practice about accepting a request to reissue an old transcript for the person's new chosen first name. Again, we're a women's college as well. What we do on our transcript is whenever we put, especially when we get, people are 20 years down the road and one to go to graduate school or something, or a job, we put two names at the top. We put the name, their legal name they were when they left our college, their most recent student name. And then we have another line with their current name, which may be different. So both names appear at the top. And one thing we found is when that gets sent to another school, it doesn't get lost because they were looking for Smith and and the transcript said Jones, but we put both names at the top. And of course we put the month and day of the birth date and the last four of the social, we show that. So that's kind of how we get around. Does that answer your question there, Gail? Let me get down to the bottom of the chat here. Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, anybody else? I guess my clock says 1:59. Anybody have any burning issues? All I would do to the AACRAO folks, and Lisa in her organizational hat here.
Heard great ideas.
Yeah, maybe we ought to soon, because that waiver's got to get started getting in on August the 1st for the VA thing. I don't know if we could generate a registrar/SCO, or at least a registrar up on that one. I don't know if that'd be worth it or not. Like you say, we would just start everybody joining on the SCR list.
Yeah, and a big thank you to AACRAO for sponsoring this and for sponsoring the new SCRL. So
yeah, well, we appreciate that, you AACRAO folks. Thank you. Yeah.
And I guess from me, thank you to all the folks who participated and watched. And apparently there's still a number of you still on. So thank you.
So
that's all right.
We do have a couple of AACRAO just sort of exit slides announcements that are going on. One is our annual meeting is coming up. next April in Portland, and the call for proposals is opening up. So keep an eye out for that. We would love to have you join us. And I believe the deadline is August 31st for proposals. Virtual options for presenting and or attending are in development, and they will be shared as soon as we have them ready to go. Also, we have a technology summit coming up in September. That's the 29th and 30th of September. And it's going to focus on technology of transfer and meaningful data exchange. And now is the time to accelerate that change. So we're determined at AACRAO to remove the barriers to transfer and to speed the process that supports student decision-making and advising by supporting institutions in migrating to the digital document pathways. So keep that in mind. Also, our SEM conference is coming up. That is expected at this point to be an in-person experience in Florida. There is under development how to make it a virtual experience as well. Those details will be coming. That registration opens up August 4th, and the early bird registration deadline is September 10th. So put that down on your calendar. And then, as was said in the chat, the next small college registrar summer series is on August 4th. And there, Catherine Scoville and Aaron Collins will be talking to you about looking ahead, the future of the small college registrar. So we'd like to thank you at AACRAO because you are what make this work. Please
Hey,
join us
Mike,
again.
Mike, I saw where somebody said they couldn't copy the chat. Did you say you're recording the chat for everybody? Because there's resources on there.
Yep. So actually, I just posted the final, as I put it, final-ish chat log. It doesn't include this last minute or two, obviously, but you can use that link in there to download a Word doc that has a full chat. Apologies, you will see some private chats to and from me, but there is nothing scandalous in there. So just ignore those. And the other thing, I put this in the chat as well, but this session was recorded. So it takes a little while to process, but in about anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes, you can use the same link that you use to access this live session to view a stream of the session. And from there, you can there's a full audio transcript as well. So you can refer to this later on if you'd like to.
And Mike, there was a request about sending the invite for the August 4th session. We could drop that link
Sure.
in
Let me
the chat where you can go ahead and register for that.
Let me see if I can quickly find that.
It's under that coffee break, so I might have it up.
Yeah, if you've got that and want
Oh.
to put that in there.
There you go. Lisa will put it
Eyes will
in
come
there.
through. Good.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep, perfect. All right, I think that's it then. Thanks for attending, everybody. Thanks to Ed and Bill for kind of leading our discussion here. Thanks to all of you for participating. This would not have been valuable had you not, actually actively participated in it.
Thanks all.
Cool. Thanks, y'all.
All right.
Mike, Julie, do we need to stick around at all after?
We're
You
all
are good to go.
Yep.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bill, thanks,
everybody.
man. Good to meet you, sir.
You
Good
too,
job.
Ed. Take care.
Bye-bye.
So much for Bill and Ed's adventure.